Check. All right. Yeah, we're live. Sorry, I'm just trying out this new setup. Uh, could be a little weird. So let's just see if chat's working. Oh wow. Okay, it's working. I'm just glad it's working. Hey Marcel. Uh, you make it with the Shopify CLI? I don't use the CLI. I use my own scaffolds, which we're gonna see in a second. So yeah, this stream is more of my personal test. And plus on the side, we also have people on the course, hopefully, on Discord. So what's happening is this is how we'll be doing a private live stream every month. So the idea here is, and of course, there's a lot of stuff on YouTube too. So it's not like I'm abandoning YouTube. It's just that people on the stream, on the course would have access to a lot more stuff. And this is stuff that I've been kind of working on building for a decent while at this point. So there's that too. Uh, But yeah, this doesn't affect any of the regular content that I have planned on. This is more about uh, folks in the course getting more attention with my time, right? There's a bunch of stuff that's coming along here too. But yeah, for now, that's what we're doing. Okay, let's open this up. And yeah, so yeah, Michael, sorry, not Michael, Marcel. To answer your question, no, we won't be using the official CLI, we'll be using this. So this is my, okay, I need to build up stuff so that I can center this. This is one of my boilerplates. I build and maintain multiple boilerplates. In fact, more stuff is coming. So you have the Next.js one, and then you have one that's built on Express, and then you have a playground. So playground is where you can actually build your UIs without having to be connected to like building an app. So if you're a UI designer, if you're like, hey, let me kind of mock this specific app up, this is a good way. I'm just gonna check my volume real quick. Okay, yeah, that's cool. Sorry for that echo. I was just double checking on the audio. Because it has happened once where I'm talking for 5 minutes and I realize my mic is off. So there's that. All right. We're gonna be building this with, of course, Next.js, my favorite. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just kind of cloning it in. So this is like a very, not a very, yeah, I mean, it is a very raw base, right? Where it's like, we have an idea that we want to build a dynamic forms app, right? Where we want the merchant to be able to set up a form, and then we want them to write up all of the fields, all of that stuff, throw in a theme extension, and in a sort like have their customers fill up the forms. So this is again like adding another layer just so that we have a bunch of stuff going in. Will then be letting the merchants approve or reject submitted forms. Uh, who has time for Next.js? Come on, man. I love Next.js. So yeah, as I was saying, we're gonna let our merchants approve or reject those customer inputs, and then we'll be like, okay, hey, let's maybe add in a customer tag. So let's say you're building a B2B store where you're like, hey, I want to allow only wholesalers on my store. So this is pretty much how you're building it, right? This is, I would like to say, the base of it. So let's gonna do this. Let's rename this to dynamic forms. Actually, let's make it app. Let's make a new folder, call it dynamic forms, and pull the app in there. And we open this. So the reason why we're doing it this way, and we're not, in here. So if I, whoops. So if I do this, we have a folder here that actually holds all of the stuff instead of, directly writing everything into one. That's purely because we'll be using extensions too. And so extensions and your actual app do not live in the same uh, like your extension shouldn't be inside embedded inside of the app. Instead, it should be a completely separate thing. So your app and your extension should be at the root level. Now there is a repository that I again built. So if you want to take a look at that, head into my GitHub. Again, all of that is linked below. This is how you're building it. So you have the app folder and then you have the extensions folder. Inside of extensions is where all of the extensions would live, but this is how the package looks like, right? So this is just about generating and deploying it because this lives outside of our app. The actual app is where everything else is. So again, don't pull this repository because it could be out of date. This was set up in a way where you could take a look at how my production apps actually look like, right? So if you're like, hey, I want to use something on production, you pull it from here. So you have the Express and you have the Next.js and you have the Polaris Playground and then you have the Cloudflare Workers webhook apps. Uh, I'll be building a more in-depth video on this a little later in February, where we kind of talk about, hey, we have these 50,000 webhooks because my computer can only send so much that we're sending onto our app. How do we want to manage it in a serverless environment, especially during Black Friday time? Because that's when you have 50 million webhook requests a day, and you don't want to be DDoSed, like even in a legitimate way. So that's the thing. Could I make the screen bigger? Uh, sure. So yeah, I mean, because this is how it would be. On one side, we would run new window. Okay. So on one side, we will be running this. I will increase the size of my, uh, whoops, okay, yeah. CD app. Let's increase the size of this. I think this should work. Well, let me know if this works well. This is just so that you can see both the things. On the left-hand side, I have one of my test stores open because this is actually like a huge 49-inch monitor. So getting that right is a little difficult. But yeah, we can, I mean, maybe we can make this a little smaller, make this a little bigger. The characters are too small. Is this better? I can go one more uh, font size up. But in the meantime, I'm just going to quickly pull, like make, actually, I can make a just new app directly. Let me open up the thing. That's better. Okay. So again, if you feel like there's something wrong with the stream, I'm trying out this completely new setup. So if the audio is off or if you feel like something else is off, let me know and I'll fix it immediately, or at least try to. Yeah, so in the background, I'm just opening up a new app. Let's create a new app. Okay, so I'm in the partner dashboard. We are creating a new app. Let's call it Dynamic Forms Stream. This is so that I can remember this was built on Stream, and I'll delete it after this. Okay, client ID, client secret. So before we get into this of like what scopes to use and all of that stuff, first, I usually like to start with literally the most basic setup, which is write content. Write content is what we use to write blog posts and all of that stuff. So yeah, like if you look at me and be like, hey, what are you doing first? I'm doing this, right? What I want to do right now is I want to install the app on the store first, and then look into, hey, this is what we are building. Okay, so we're gonna, yeah, and now in Grok, we're gonna use this a little later. Yes, we're using 2401, so we're on the latest version. This is a local database, so I'm not really worried about, this whole stick. Encryption string, let's just kind of copy paste this in. Bun install. I use Bun for installing and running. Don't use it in production just yet. Still rely on Node and NPM or whatever, yarn, PNPM, whatever you prefer. But I prefer using Bun, at least when it comes to um, installing and running it on dev, right? So that's there. So one run ngrok, this brings up, copy this, and there you go. And so what I did here was I hit Command D, so it selects the bottom one too, and then I just kind of, pasted it. And then I'd like to have this available. So I can do it via the dashboard too, but it's just more convenient if I have this URL available to me in here, right? So this is a convenience thing more than anything else. I don't need this because obviously I do this like 200 times a day. Yeah. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start a new database instance. Now, if you head into package.json, you're going to see this database scripts. So what this does is it builds you a local Postgre instance. This is assuming you have Postgre installed. So if I were to run do list here, you will see I have Postgre 14 installed in here. Okay. So you kind of need local version of Postgre in here for these scripts to make sense. If not, you can just install Postgre using Homebrew or Chocolatey. I think it's for Windows. I don't use Windows at all, so I'm like zero idea about the entire thing, right? But yeah, make a local Postgre thing and just like add those scripts in because this is how convenient it is to build up a new database. npm run pg create, npm run pg start, and we have a local database running, right? Now, immediately what I want to do is I want to push my Prisma schema. So if you don't know, sorry, not this file. Yeah. So if you don't know, Prisma is what we use to interact with our database. So essentially what it allows us to do is it's an ORM, right? I like two things about Prisma uh, in the scope of this specific project, right? One, actually three things. One, I don't have to raw dog SQL queries, right? That's what the job of the ORM is. I say, hey, this is the schema, build me a model, make sure, it has IntelliSense, so it's TypeScript stuff. Uh, and yeah, like let me treat the entire thing like an object. Hey, Doe Learning, how you doing today? Good to see you here. Right, so that's one. The second is provider. If I'm like, hey, I wish I did this in MySQL, done. So moving between Postgre and MySQL, of course, there's a bunch of stuff that MySQL wouldn't allow you to do because MySQL in itself does not support as many primitives as Postgre. So yeah, but all of my production projects, in fact, even this project, we will be pushing it up to PlanetScale, which uses MySQL. So we're going to be looking at how that migration really happens, right? It's going to be magic, trust me on that. But yeah, locally we're using Postgre. The third thing I really like about Prisma is it's just too amazing. Like it's just really nice. Like I have, to be very honest with you all, I have just forgotten what it's like to write Prisma SQL queries, right? So that's there. The first thing I do with all of my models is add in indexes. Oops. So index, and this would be shop because of course I need that. And in here, I need one on shop and in one on ID. So what does indexing actually do? Uh, when you run a database query, uh, what's going to happen is if you don't have it indexed, it's going to go through say 100 different entries, but you have those fields indexed, it's going to actually bring in those queries. There's a very beautiful video from Prisma on this. I did a very bad job of explaining what an index is, right? So what you want to do is you want to head into PlanetScale, sorry, PlanetScale index. Uh, uh, yep, it's from him. I think it was about I saved a SAS or something. Yeah, saving a SAS in the weekend. So let's add this in the chat just so you guys can watch this video. So absolutely amazing video. This is where they are setting up these indexes. And he does a very good job of explaining what do indexes actually do, right? I did a very bad job at it. So what I would recommend is head into PlanetScale or like bookmark this video, watch it. Like I'm very serious about this. Watch this video. Things are just gonna make so much more sense, right? So I run format because of course I like the entire thing to be formatted very well. And then it's npx, whoops. npx Prisma db push. What this does is it takes your schema and it pushes it to the database, right? So I love to do it twice just because I'm very paranoid about it not pushing the entire thing, right? The first time you're going to see, hey, database does not exist, but it's fine. It's going to create it. Now let's open Postico. Let's connect. And what we're going to see here is we have, okay, I can't make this bigger. Shopify app with the two of the tables, and this is where it is, right? We'll be coming to this in a second, but essentially what we have done so far is we have created a new database, Postgre, with just three commands, right? All we did was pg create, pg start, and npx Prisma db push. Or you could just run npm run Prisma push, right? So my boilerplates come in with all of that stuff done for you. So you don't have to worry about a lot of this. Okay. Right. So now, since our database is in sync, everything's done, we want to update the URLs which live in your app setup. Now you can copy paste it in, you know, uh, there's a long thing in the setup. So if you were to head into setup, it goes over what all do you actually need. But again, we have a script for it, which is npm run update URL, right? So run update URL. So if you're not already signed in, it's going to show you, hey, like, can you please sign in? And then you're good to go. So if I just hit refresh, now you see these are updated, right? So that's what we're essentially looking for. We want our URLs to be updated without having to like change it multiple times. Because if you're like me on the Ngrok's free plan, you do not want to go through doing that every single day, right? Yeah, sorry. So yeah, so what you've done is database done, URLs are updated, Ngrok is running, clear, bun, or npm run dev. And now Next.js is running. Let's ignore all of it. And now let's head back into our env. We have this URL on us, and let's install it. So there's just convenience again. You can rewind back and see how we did it. Let's actually, this is a new thing. Like I thought this would show up a bigger one. Was this just updated because I'm seeing this just now? Could be just me though. But yeah, I mean, like, given I do this like 200 times a day, I should have seen it coming. Okay, so great. Once your app is installed, you know things are working perfectly fine, right? So if you come to the screen, that means your setup's done perfectly. So now okay, you know what I should do? I should remove the origin so that I don't mistakenly push anything. Right. So pages index. Now we are using Next.js. Next.js and React. Like if you know React, you're gonna immediately pick up on Next.js. There's a bunch of stuff for you, if you come from Express that I will explain to you as we kind of go on. But this is where we are building the entire thing, right? So the first thing I like to do is I would, of course, remove all of the base the boilerplate comes in. It has a bunch of my links. It has a bunch of debug cards. So if you do not use any of my repos, this is like a thing. You can actually see what all stuff's, happening in the background. You can run data fetching to see if like your get post and GraphQL requests are working as expected. You can try out the billing API, all of that stuff. And of course, there's some links about, with the course, the average CDN, and the repository itself. So if you're like, hey, maybe I want to start, or want to open a new issue, or want to read through average CDN, you have those links available to you. Okay. And now let's come on to building the app. So remove all of that, remove all of that. And so we have the base. Now, if you're in Next.js, do not remove this. If you remove this, your app is doomed. You're going to be spending like 2 years trying to figure out what happened. That's what's there. Use router is, well, our router. Use fetch. So all of your fetch instances are off of use fetch. What essentially happens is it adds these headers into your fetch request. So in the event your session dies out or something else, we can easily manage and get out of it, reauth your session tokens and come back in, right? So again, if you need a more in-depth video, I've done videos on the boilerplates. You should actually go see those if you're not aware of that. Uh, but yeah, so let's start out this build. Now, the first thing I want to do is I want to build up my base, right? Uh, so page. And yeah, I mean, like if you do this every single day, it's gonna be like, okay, this is super irritating because I find it super irritating. And yeah, so page title, what we're gonna calling it is wholesale applications, right? Because we actually want the merchant to kind of push out a bunch of stuff. Like, hey, here's a form, fill it, and then I'm gonna approve or reject you based on that. Okay. Now, with wholesale applications, the first thing I use, or in fact, building any app, the first thing that I usually do is I make a features page. Push features. Okay. We'll come to this in a second, but let's build up the rest of the app first, or at least the home screen, right? Now, in here, hmm, let's see. Let's make a card. Okay. Let's make a block stack. Cap is 200. Text. That should be a variant of heading, maybe empty. I think this should be nice. Let's see, what do we want to call it? Applications. Or let's just call it application or your wholesale application. Yep. We make this body MD, which is your regular stuff. Now, with the cards, you kind of want to be descriptive and let people know what is it that you're actually building. Right now, because it's an internal app or a custom app, you would usually not follow, this is weird to say, you would usually not follow Polaris's actually guidelines, but build it the way your merchant actually wants. So what I would add in here is this is where you can set up and edit your wholesale form that is shown on the storefront. Now, I'm not sure how compliant it is when it comes to the actual Polaris guidelines. But yeah, like this is how I usually build custom apps. And now we need a button in here on click, router.push. Uh, we would structure it this way, application. And yeah, let's just call it application, right? And this button, we're gonna call it manage application. Now, this should be of a very primary because you want people to be like, hey, that's a button. But this is also like completely full width. We don't want it to be full width, but that's what Blockstack kind of does. So we're gonna make it inline stack. So we are back to how our old cards would actually look like, right? And my inline stack, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna align and we're gonna do it the end, right? So now your card's ready, right? And so we're gonna now copy this section and we're gonna paste it in. So now we have the second card, applicants. This is where you can see who has submitted new applications along with people who have been accepted, rejected in the past, right? So you again, like in here, you're trying to be as uh, descriptive as possible because you're building it like a custom app. So now, but my here, let's call it applicants, or I would actually call this forms. You know what? Let's actually turn this into form and call this applications. So what? So our form is where we actually managing the form. Applications where we manage the people, right? Again, this is applications and manage wholesale form. Okay. So now this looks good, right? You have a simple two card setup. Uh, you do not have to sit down and support your customer on this. And the fact that we're spending so much time on this, like, should be like very clear that, hey, custom apps do not follow public app guidelines. They follow the guidelines that work well for that specific group of motions. Because your motion could be, in their 50s, or your motion could be in their 20s. So you want to build something that makes sense for them. Now, the first thing I always do, uh, usually I am not building this page, right? The first thing I would do is I would create a page, layout to layout section, an empty card, and then I would just create a features thing, right? And now I would come here, okay, uh, call it features page, okay, and I would then navigate to features. Now, in here, I want to take this very seriously, okay, because this is exactly where my entire app's feature sets live. So what we're going to do, uh, create dynamic form where merchant can select what fields they want to be filled, right? So that's the first thing that we're going to build, a form that you can move fields around and then you can push it to your theme extension, right? The second thing I want to do is approve, reject applicants. Now, you can let this be as in-depth or as summary as you want it to be, because this is completely based on you. When I do this, this is so that when I am building the entire app, I have a good grasp over, hey, this is what I am building, right? Now, approve, reject applicants, show pending applications. And yeah, so for this is all I want to do, okay? I just want to do three things. Let the merchant build it, a form, approve or reject applications, which are already in, and show all of the pending applications. That's about it. Now, I won't be like, okay, hey, let's make it a little more in depth because this is just not enough, right? So I would make a new list item again here, and now I would be like, use theme extension to create form on the front end, use app proxy to view and to get and post the form. So, like essentially what I just did was I created my points and then I'm using what exact Shopify tech am I gonna be using into building said app, right? So the moment you come in here, you're like, okay, hey, this is what I'm gonna implement, and this is how I'm gonna implement it. So later on, when you come to this, you're gonna be like, okay, this is where the brain's at. I know exactly what I'm doing. Approve, reject applicants. What I would also like to do here, in fact, I would and show pending applications. Okay. What, like, I would take this a step further and be like, uh, allow approval, rejection, even outside pending state, which means if I've approved someone already, I still want to be able to go back and reject them because it could be a misclick. Okay. And then add button to show the customer in admin, right? And then I would start a new list because this is fine. And actually, let's encapsulate the entire thing in a block stack. Cap 400. Let's call this features. And let's make one for notes. Okay. Now, in my notes section, what I want to do is I want to make it very clear about certain things that I want to take into consideration. For example, only allow people who have a Shopify account in the store. So we're still using the classic customer accounts where people are like, hey, I've created, a customer account because I haven't played enough with the new customer account idea. So it does not make sense for me to kind of try it out on stream right now. But yeah, I'm guessing it would still work. It's not that big of a difference. But yeah. So only will let Shopify in the store to submit a form. Oh, sure. I used list instead of list item. This should be within the list, right? If someone doesn't have an account, redirect them to the login sign up page. Okay. So that's just about what we are doing in here. Like, I do not want to build anything else in this. So that will be const router, use router. And in my page, I want to create a back action, an action. In here, I want to be like router.push because we need some baseline navigation here. And in my title, I want to add features. Right, so heading back, this works. I can come into features and I can at any given point of time be aligned again of, hey, this is exactly what I'm building, right? So again, to me, it's super necessary to have this page. This is how I build all of my stuff. You could have this written in a page somewhere. You could have it a post-it note. That's completely on you. But I like to have this page that I would later delete as I'm building, uh, because it gives me a North Star to follow, right? And all of the features that I want to delete, I add a dev mark to it. So later on, I can just search for dev and I know what I need to delete off of prod. I would even go as far as sometimes, let's say with the debug cards, I would check if we are running in production mode or dev mode, and then I would show based off of that. Actually, let's sit down. I've been standing since morning, so I think I just need to sit down for a second. Yeah. Uh, Okay. So that's where we are at. So I think so, like the whole idea of the features space is very clear to everyone on why we are doing this. Now, what I want to do is first create my schema because now that I know what we are building, so let's head into features and I want to come down and build my actual schema. So in my schema, the first thing I want to do is store the applications. At first, I thought let's kind of use meta fields to store it, but then I changed my mind. Uh, I like this kind of README driven development. And what if using Claris, this adds a lot of complexity? It doesn't. Uh, like once you kind of get used to it, it's fine. Like this is only based off of the first build. So you're not really too worried about a bunch of stuff. So yeah. Yeah. So back to this, I want to first create a model for my applications, right? Model applications. I want an ID. This is like how I build it. Uh, Sorry, it should be CUID, not UUID. Okay. Now you could serialize it, you could do whatever you want. I just prefer my IDs to be a CUID because for most parts I would use this as a identifier. I want their names, of course. Uh, and then I would use an email. I would add in a unique string to it because we're building this only for one specific uh, merchant in this case, right? If I was using this for someone else, I would create a unique of email with shop combination just so that we have, uh, you know, one email for every store. So that's a difference that comes here. And never add in customer ID because of course that of course needs to be there. Application status. I would then copy paste this, and I would create an enum here. Whoops. And we would call it pending, approved, or rejected. Okay. Actually, let's make it like this. Let's not keep those two exactly the same. And default, I want it to be in pending. Yeah, just give me a text file. I mean, like, it really depends. I prefer the features page. You might prefer a simple text file that's, somewhere in the project. So, it could be markdown. I just prefer it this way because as I'm going through the app, I have this available, which is outside of my VS Code. And internally, when I'm working with, let's say, a bunch of other developers, they can come in here and be like, okay, this is what we are building, this is what's done, this is what's not done, and how far we have strayed away from the actual feature set, right? So that's where we are going out with this. Uh, but the fields, I want them to be a JSON. Okay. Now, this is all of my applications. But when it comes to my application form, all I want to do is, let's call it application form. What I want to do here is add in a string, add in an ID, sorry, which is again CUID, and I want to add in the fields like this, right? I would come back in here, Bonex Prisma format, Bonex Prisma DB push. Okay, so now my uh, database is up to speed with this. Fair? Yeah. Okay. Now I know Bonex Prisma Studio. Okay. So now I know we all want to see like what's actually happening and why I made the schema the way that I did. Well, we'll go back to that. Okay. Application form. What we have here is ID and fields. This is what stores all of our applications, right? Or the actual forms. Because what's happening is, if I look at this, create dynamic form where the merchant can select what fields they want to be filled, which means maybe we have a name and email that is constant, but everything else after this is completely at the mercy of the merchant. What I would want to do here is I want to store the entire thing as a JSON and attach a unique identifier to it. And this is what this is, a unique identifier, which is the ID, and fields as a JSON. Okay. And then when I come to applications, I want the ID, which is the unique identifier. I want the name and email, which is very clear. The customer ID, which will pull. Now, this is again a unique identifier you can use, but at this point, I just want the customer ID so I can update their tags a little later. Okay. Application status, which could be pending, which could be approved, which could be rejected, and then the fields. This fields then maps up to my forms fields so that tomorrow if my fields change, I do not have to change my entire data structure, right? So I hope this schema all of a sudden now makes sense in that sense, right? Hey, Alex. So uh, yeah, that's what we're essentially doing here. So this fields maps up to this. And so now we have made a space where I can just pretty much throw in any field I want without validation errors and without having to change my entire schema. Okay. So with this done, I've pushed all of the stuff forward and we're good to go. Okay. And now let's come back to our index and let's actually make up our field. So in here, I want to create form. I think it was form or was it forms? Form. Okay. Form.jsx. Okay. Well, this is going to be the irritating part. Let's see. Manage. Okay. And in here, let's just return this for now. I just want to have something so I can navigate to that page and see in real time what's happening. Okay. Alex, if you have any question, just like drop it in. It's fine. Okay. So as usual, let's first create a page. Let's create layout. Let's create layout.section. And we have something in here. Title, edit form. And let's call it edit wholesale application, right? in here, I would want my router because of course we need that too. Back action. Okay, we don't need a content. Router dot push. Okay, so that's working. Now let's come on here. So what I would want to do is I want to set up loading and field states. So loading, set loading, use state, false, false, false. And then again, like I am taking like fields. Okay, use state. So what I'm essentially doing here is I'm taking the most basic approach that I could take, right? Because I do not want to overcomplicate the entire thing by adding in a bunch of stuff. So I'm leaving this as an object for now, uh, initial state. And let's kind of move in here, right? So the first thing that I want to do is I want to create like a basic layout of what I want. Huh. So in there, I think I'll have to convert fields into an array. Yeah. Okay, let's make an object here. So my ID would be name, label would be name, value is this, type is text. Options, let's leave that as an array for now. I think this should work fine. And then what I want to do is I want to do the exact same thing for email. This just so that I have something to begin with. We'll kind of come down to this in a second. So what I'm thinking here is for my fields, I have the ID and the name just so that I have a unique identifier, which is also going to be sent over to the theme extension, right? Value is straightforward, which is going to hold the actual value. Type, the type, we're doing this because we want to be able to accept, let's say, a dropdown, text, numbers, URLs. Okay. And so if we select a dropdown, we want to pass in another parameter for options. So what I'm doing here is, yeah, this makes sense. So essentially what I'm doing here is creating a structure that I'm going to be then building the entire thing off of. Okay. So that's where my head is at. Okay, yeah. And of course, I want to now define my field types just so that I don't forget these. So my label could be URL, value, URL. Let's do text, let's do number, and let's do a drop down. URL, text, number, and then let's do a drop down. Okay. Now, first thing I want to do here is actually build some of the UI just so that you can actually see what's happening and what are we doing in this entire case. So in my layout section, let's build a card. Let's add in a block stack and add the gap to be 200. I think 200 is fine. Okay. Now, fields.map, uh, field I would need an index too. What do I need an index? I think I would need an index. First, let's make a div which holds the key, which would be the index. I think that's the right approach to take. And now in here, if my index is bigger than 0, do I want to show this now? Yeah, let's add in, do I want to add in the margin at top here? Do I want to, let's, yeah, screw it. Let's just add in a margin. Div style, margin top, 10 pixies, and this, and this. Okay, that margin works. Now, div, div. How many divs are we going to create? Now, in here, a lot of people will be like, hey, but you could use Polaris. This is specifically like what I want to show sometimes is you do not need to completely rely on Polaris all the times because Polaris is your base that you create your apps on, right? What you want to do is take Polaris as is and then add in your stuff on top of it. So I want this to be flex because and justify content, I think space between should be fine. Right. So what I'm essentially trying to do here, okay, yeah, with let's make it 50% text field, label, field label, value, field dot value. I think that's what we have, right? Yeah, we have field dot value in here. On change, right? We have the label that comes in. In this case, I would create a new, I don't think that would work. Set fields, previous, whoops, prev, prev.map, f, f.id would be field.id if that is the case. F, label id, if not f. Okay, so now we have two of those. So essentially what I did with this is I'm looping over the fields, uh, sorry, where's it gone? Yeah. So I'm looping over the fields and then creating a text field, right? So what's happening in this case is I want to kind of just show like, okay, hey, uh, on one end you have the field label, and on the other hand, we should have what kind of field it is. But given that it is the beginning of name and email, it may not make sense right now, but I have the layout in my mind of what I want to build. Uh, and also, yeah, like I'm live building, so it's gonna be a little irritating because things may not make sense. Uh, but yeah, it's gonna make sense in a second. So that's style, and I again want 50%. Now let's use a select. Yeah. My label here would be field type. Options would be field. You are doing correct. Yeah. Field types. This would be the case. On change, because this is a type. Okay, let's actually scroll a little further down. On change. What am I doing here? Set fields. Prev. Again, follow the same idea here. Actually, why did I add a bracket? I don't need that. Prev.map f.id is equal to field.id. F type, if not f, this should mean, oh yeah, okay. So it's that worked out. Uh, so essentially what we did here was we iterated over fields and then we iterated over field types, right? But I don't know why the label isn't showing up. I need to double check that in a second. Uh, and what we did was, since we map over all of them, uh, we now have this thing where it's just like, hey, you have the field labels that comes from this, and then you have the field types that comes from this. So I could then define it to be a text, a number, a dropdown. It's not working just yet, but we'll get it to work. Uh, and yeah, I think I would also want I need a space in there. I hate that space. About 10 pixels here. Yeah, that looks good enough. Okay, so essentially what we did was we loop over both labels and types, and then we kind of add those in here, right? Though I am a little concerned of why it is not of, yeah, correct. Because the value should be field.type. Okay, yep, now it works. Thank God. I was really worried about it for a second. I'm like, why you're not working? But this also means that this area should also work, which is weird. So let's say I have a label that says field label. I have the value. Correct. This shouldn't be field.value. This should be field.label. Okay. So I think now it makes more sense. Essentially, what we did again is we have a label which says like, hey, this is what your label is. This is what the value of said label is, because now I can change it. Uh, and the moment it changes, I use the label as an ID. I then use a state while pulling out the previous state on it. And so I'm just like, hey, let's keep the rest of the previous state exactly the same and only modify the specific one, right? And so essentially that's what we're doing. So it's either, hey, we found it and we just want to change a bunch of stuff, or like just add in the new stuff completely. Wait, everyone's who's following around, does this make sense? Because I know it's very easy to get lost in React sometimes. Uh, and because this is like a live thing, I can still explain what's happening, but sometimes explaining all of this gets a little out of hand because my brain can process what's happening. And I also need to be very vocal about what's happening so you can understand it too. So yeah, if you do not follow along so far, please let me know. I'm more than happy to kind of come in and explain what just happened. So this is this. This should be the encapsulating div. Okay, div key index. Huh. Now, if I have a drop down, I want to add in a new. So essentially, what's happening is if it's of type text or if it's of type number or URL, it's fine. But if it's a drop down, I now want to show in like a completely new uh, field. So you can add in your options, right? And so field.type is drop down, and though technically you shouldn't be using and, to be honest with you. You should be using like the ternary operator and then show null instead. Makes sense, but I'll go through anything twice, maybe thrice anyways. Okay, yeah. Because I think even I'll have to go through this twice or thrice, be like, what did I actually write? But it works so far at least. So I'm not complaining. Okay. Yeah. So in this text field, let's add in a label. Label, yeah. Drop down options. Let's call it comma separated. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna allow people to add in a bunch of stuff. And if that's the case, we're gonna let them write in comma separated values. Okay, yeah. Now what I do is value would be, because again, what happened here, we have the options available. So what I can do here is I can use field dot options dot not JSON dot join by this because it's an array. So this technically should work. Unchange options, set fields, rev dot map, f dot id, field dot id, f options. This would be options not split by the comma. if not F. Okay, wait, hold on. Even I am a little confused of what I'm doing here. But yeah, technically this should work in one shot. Use effect, fields, console.dir, fields, depth, null. I know some people are just going, what is he doing exactly? Okay. This is text, this is text. Okay. So if I were to make it a drop down and then be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is fine. I go into array, I go into drop down. Yep. So essentially here what I have is an array that is split by the comma. So if I were to do this and then look at this, yep, so it's 1, 2. Okay, this works perfectly fine. Options, yep. Okay, that works perfectly fine. So essentially what we did here was if we see that it's of a type drop down, uh, the value should be joined back as a string, but when we're saving it, we want to split it by the comma. So what happens is the user always enters uh, a string, but we're storing it as an array, so it is easy to iterate over later when we create a theme extension. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Also, by the way, when you're watching the stream and you're like, hey, does this make sense? Does it not make sense? Please ask questions. That's the whole idea of doing a live stream. Uh, yeah. And now what I want to do is I want to add in the ability to add in new fields and remove existing fields. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So if my index is more than one, div style, I just want some margin on top, 5 pixies. 5 pixies is enough. And then let's add in a button. Let's make it, where is the destructive button? I know variant is one. Sorry, I'm still a little lost with the new Polaris because it's so ingrained in my head to be using that. Disable disclosure, download external full width icon. I think it should be variant. Why is variant not here? Okay, role. Is it role? Sorry, I'm just having a quick existential crisis on this. I think it's tone, critical. Right, I haven't added anything. Sorry. So essentially, what was happening in my brain was if I add in more stuff, I only then do I want to show the destructive button. So essentially, the name and email are always there because we almost always want them to be filled, right? So for now, I'm just making index 0, make index 1, right? So we're adding in a quick note that we have to make it 1, but for now, I just want to add in a thing. Remove, remove the field, but actually maybe not that much. Tone critical, variant, I think a primary variant here. Yep, that gives you a good, schmickety schmick. Why did I say that? Okay, this is there on, not on action, on click. Right now we just want to be like, hey, remove field, but technically this remove field, yeah, it is in the loop. Since it is in the loop, I can actually throw in the index in here. or that field's ID. So if I were to do field.id, whoops, and I hit remove, remove field email, that's correct. So essentially what I can do is this remove button would then show up uh, wherever the stuff is. And then when I hit remove, it's gonna remove that specific element instead of removing everything. So for now, it's just an alert. I do not want to do anything else with it. This happened, I do this. It's in my block stack, right? I actually now want to get out of my loop. Loopity loop. Okay. In here, let's add in a break line, and then let's add in a button, which is a variant primary. Let's call it add field. Yep, so it's at the bottom. On click. For now, again, let's alert add field. Let's try this out. Add field, remove works perfectly fine. And now let's do I want to do it now? Yeah, now let's add in the stuff for the fields, right? So what I want to do in my remove, do I want it in my remove? Do I not want it in my remove? Okay, by the way, guys, again, if you're not following, please let me know. I'll catch up on it. Okay. Instead of doing an alert here, I can just make a function remove field field.id. So I need to create this. Let's make the index one back again. And in my button, so set fields, prev dot filter out first, which should be the field. Field.id is not equal to ID. Yeah, cannot field is not defined, but does this make sense? Remove field, you get the ID, you then filter it out where it's not the ID, and then you should be good to go. Yeah, because okay, so what I'm doing here when it comes to removing the said ID is I quickly take on the so essentially what I'm doing is instead of like doing a search, whatever it is, I just go through the entire thing. And if I find the ID that comes in from the function, I just omit it. So essentially what I'm doing is create a new state where the given ID does not exist. So I'm just copy pasting it in a new way, which now I'm thinking is a bad idea. Is it a bad idea though? It's fine. Okay, so can add field, set can add field, state. Yeah, we want to open with true. So this is taken care of. Now add field, const, add field. If cannot add field, just return because we don't want it to run. Yeah, no, yes, no. Okay, yeah. So if you technically cannot add field, even though I've disabled it in the event something fails, it's still good to have that. But if a new field is being created, I want to do this where the ID is not known, the name is not known, the type, we can keep it a text, I guess. I think that's good to have. And then because I've done that, what I can do is set the fields prev, and I can create a new array, of ref and new field. Yes, I think just adding it should work. Okay, see, this is what I did not want the merchant to be able to do. Yeah, and see, like this is what's happening. If I add in the, it was going so well. In one shot, I was getting everything right, but of course it has to break. And now we need to debug what we did wrong. Okay, this works fine. Have I left any more marks? I did create remove field. I did create add field. So if I add a field and if I do in the label value const id, can we just console.log id here? Because I want to see when I'm potentially doing something wrong. Uncaught error cannot read properties of undefined reading map. So the moment it hits the A, it's throwing me this error. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Now the interesting part, yeah, I hate this. Okay, I'm thinking about this, about like initial UI does not, I do not care about the initial UI in Next.js. You need to understand that. Let's write a use effect in that time for fields. I think I know when I'm doing this wrong. Okay. Const last field equals fields, fields dot length minus 1 if last field dot label and last field dot type is not equals to dropdown, or last field dot type equals dropdown and last field, right, options dot length is greater than or equal to 2. Set can add field true, else okay. So essentially what I've done while my brain's processing where I'm going wrong, I've written this use effect that changes in every field. Essentially this is to enable and disable if you can add field. So if you have the label, it's good. If you have added the label when it's like text URL text or number, I am fine with it because you don't have to do anything. If it's a drop down, right, and you have at least two options in there, I am good to go. Okay, no, this should be two, not one. So essentially, if it's a regular field, that's fine. If it's a drop down, I wanted to have at least two options. So if I make a drop down, this is disabled one, or I guess that's what's happening. What if I make it three? One, two. Oh, but then you would have to have that. Okay, I'm not in the mood to deal with that right now. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna just deal with this. Okay, now we add this, which this also is an issue. I cannot add a new field. Field label is, oh, fuck off, mate. Cannot read properties of undefined reading map. So why is my fields all of a sudden undefined? It's my coding drop downs. Yes, so true. It's so true. It's so true. I do not know what I'm doing. Anyone got any ideas why my fields is undefined the moment I add in the new label? The initial UI does not render. I do not care. I'm tempted to try something out. Okay, so you make a margin, right? And then you make a div so that you have a flex, and then you come in here. Now, 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 now. You have the label as field label. You have the value as field dot label, right? On change label, const ID, set, we're gonna move this, set fields, prev. Oh, for fuck's sake. Yeah, this is what I'm doing wrong. So if I add a new field now, it should be. Oh, okay. Wait, what? Why is it? Okay, because that was exactly the same. Okay, okay, okay. I was really confused for a second why that was happening. Hey, Darwin, how you doing? Okay. Luckily caught that error that I had added in a new this thing. So we're good to go. We don't have to spend 200 years figuring this out. Actually, it should work fine on number in URL too. In a drop down, I could be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, it's working. It's working. Yes. And that is how you debug. You just do things and you hope for the best. Okay, let's kind of quickly go over what is happening. Uh, okay, so what I'm doing in this case is I start out with a state that has name and email on it. Okay, once that is there, I then define my field types. I field types are these things. So it's a URL, it could be a text, it could be a number, it could be a dropdown, which then corresponds to the state. So I need an ID to the state, I need a label to the state, I need a value to the state, and I also need to define its type. So if the type is text, number, or URL, I'm fine with it. But the moment you come down to options, I options is specifically for drop downs, right? Because the moment you are on the drop down, you want to be like, hey, what is that kind of a drop down? So you want to give the user something to select. Those selection fields live in the options as an array. Okay. You have a format ID that trims stuff out. You have a remove field, which, so the way we are removing a field is I just see, hey, if the email is what I have, I create a new state that does not have the email in it. Okay. Or anything that matches that. So if you have multiple emails, you just kind of remove all of them, right? Add field is essentially just creating a new entry into that state. This use effect just checks after every time fields changes because the value is being updated as a state that have you added the label? If you haven't added the label, do not you cannot add a new field, right? Because we don't want you to just throw in a bunch of stuff in there or have like empty labels because that would break the entire thing. But if your label is of a type dropdown and the dropdown doesn't have at least two entries, you still cannot create it, right? So you need, if you have a dropdown, you need to have at least two entries. Otherwise, I'm sorry, I can't let you create uh, uh, this thing, a new field, right? And that's what you're doing. So you can see this here. I This is currently disabled. If I type in field one, that's fine. In a number, that's still fine. In a URL, that's still fine. In a dropdown, it is now disabled again. I can add one, and I can add two. This is a bug that I'm not going to fix right now, that you need to have at least two entries. So at least that's at least one comma, right? And that's what we're doing. Hey, Alex, how you doing today? So that's essentially what's happening in this. So once we have this uh, form kind of done, this now means that my merchant can create anything they want, right? So this could be phone number, this could be a number, that could be what type of merchant are you, could be wholesale, could be retail, uh, could be JavaScript is a better thing to use than TypeScript, and so on, right? So you have a bunch of these fields. And now what you want to do, because you have your form working as expected, so I can remove this and phone number moves up automatically. I'm honestly surprised it works in one shot. Okay, except for that tiny issue that we had. Uh, yeah, that's that. Uh, okay, now let's where's my pages? Let's hide this. Let's hide this. Let's create a new oh, where did I hit return? Okay, now let's create a new primary action. What I want to do here is I want to save all of this content, right? So first, I just want the not field types. I want fields to be console logged. I just want to see what is it that I'm getting here. Okay. So when I hit save, I get this, the entire fields as an array, right? So just to be confirmed, type of fields, I hit save and I have that. Oh yeah. So if you didn't know, an array is an object in JavaScript. So that's that. So yeah, but this is an array, which is fine. That's what we're looking for, and we have that stuff. Now what we want to do is we want to create a new API route that takes all of these fields and stores it in our server, right? But before that, let's quickly write out our. Do I want to write this right now? Yeah, let's write out our saveform function, right? Const saveform. This is going to be a sync. Uh, Now in here, I also want to pull fetch, use fetch, no, not use features, use fetch, right? So just like we discussed earlier, use fetch is an instance of fetch itself, but we are using use fetch because that comes in with all of our headers and all of that stuff predefined in here, okay? So this way the is loading comes in really well, or set loading for that matter. Set loading, sure. Do I want to use try catch here? Let's use a try catch here. Uh, and then finally set loading false. Okay. So if this is the case, const response equals await fetch. Where we're going to store this API apps application save form. I think that works well. Method is post. As Next is much more common boilerplate to use for your apps. Yes. In fact, here is the thing. Start with serverless and only move to a stateful or serverful framework when you see the need where the serverless fails. You're going to be surprised how well that approach works. But then again, everyone has their own thing. This is the approach I use. I would default to Next.js and then I would think about other things, right? So where were we? Where were we? We were writing our fetch. So method is post. Let's add in the headers, not head. Headers, content type would be application JSON. Body, let's JSON JSON stringify form fields. Do you want to call this form fields? Let's call this form fields. Fields. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm sending this to my server. Be like, my guy, my dude, here's the stuff. And now here's another thing, right? I'm not sending fields directly because I want to be able to access it in a much more streamlined way. So what I could do is I could do this, but I'm just taking an extra precaution of adding form fields in it just so that I know I can always hit form fields and get all of the stuff out, right? So again, this is a practice that I use personally. You can use whatever idea that you like, right? Uh, so yeah. And do I want to do anything with it? I honestly don't want to do anything with the data, but it would be nice to. Would it be nice? Is it nice? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Okay. It would be nice to have some sort of feedback in here. So I'm going to wrap this again into an await, into a JSON. So this is essentially what I'm doing is the moment you add in a bracket, you are encapsulating the entire response into an await.json. This is the same as now me doing await uh, response.json, right? So instead of doing this, I've just merged it into a single line by encapsulating the entire thing in a round bracket and then awaiting JSON on it, right? Same thing, is just that it's much more cleaner. I know my response is sending me a thing. So if response.error, actually, if no response.error, return alert saved successfully. Actually, if there is no this thing, router.push to the homepage and return. I do not want to do anything else, right? But since this happened and we have an error, response.error response.message. Okay. So because this is how I write my responses, so I know that it's a very predictable thing. If I have an error, I would send error is true and I would add in a message to it, right? This is just so that I have that sanity that if this happened properly, I just want to get out of that page. But if it did not happen properly, I just want to throw in a error, right? Because the try would only work if the entire thing failed. I could use throw and all of that stuff. I'm not in the mood for any of that right now. If the entire thing failed miserably, then send me an alert. If not, just send me the response errors, right? Response errors messages so I can actually debug it. And so what would happen is when I install it on my merchant store, I know where the error is arising from. So if it's a custom error that I wrote, okay, this is happening on the server. But if something's broken here, I know it's happening on the client side. So at any given point of time, you're very aware of where the error is arising from, because a custom app for a merchant is always going to be like 10 times as irritating to deal with. Uh, at least that's what I've seen, a lot of times. So there's that too. Page back action, primary action, content is save. Now, instead of this, I can just run save form here, and my loading is loading. So let's add in a new field. Let's add in yada yada yada, and let's add in 1 to 3, which is a drop down, which is 1 to 3, 2 to 4, 3 to 5. And I hit save, it does this. I have an error. I know because that route does not exist. Inspect, console. Unexpected is not valid JSON is because failed, the server responded with the status of 404, which is exactly what we will also have here. It'll be like, hey, 404 not found. So this is where you also are like, hey, I should actually check my uh, this thing, what do you call it? ngrok every once in a while, because that's actually going to tell me where my actual error is. You would be surprised the amount of times I saved my butt in terms of like, hey, this is where your error is. I'm like, thank you. So let's do it this way. Application form.js, right? Now, again, if you're using my boilerplate, it's gonna be very normal for you. But if you're not, please start using it. Like this is your sign to start using this. Okay, what I'm gonna do is because there's a new API route, I just write create API, bam, done. A lot of this is just taken care of for you. This is a post request, so I only want to accept post and insert an error true message, not a post request. Okay, so if I now try to save this, why did that work? Okay, yeah, because that is a post. Correct, correct, correct. My bad. Let's make it a put instead. Sorry. Uh, Hit save. Yeah, not a post request. That's what I get. Okay, we're still fine with this. Okay, understand. Let's make this back to post so we don't have to like think twice about it. And now in here, we will be storing it in our database, right? That's all I want to do here. So const form fields equals record body, const form ID, await Prisma dot application form. Yeah, dot find many, because this is only for uh, one merchant. And so I'm just adding this as a placeholder because tomorrow what you're going to be doing is adding in a bunch of form IDs to it. I do not care about it. I just want to get the first one, right? So just get the first one because we're only going to be storing one at any given point of time. Okay. Const form equals prisma dot application form dot upsort. We always upsort. I cannot stress this enough. When it comes to databasing, I usually just upsort. I do not create, I do not update unless it's on a route where I'm very sure that this exists, right? So at any given point of time, I'm just like, we're never creating or updating. We're always upsorting. Where? Now this is, if you don't understand what this is just Prisma speak, right? Form ID. So there should be, this is always an array. This may or may not exist. So we're going to get the ID off of that. Or this is a custom ID. I'm just trying to be like, I'm just trying to avoid any errors right now. So if we find it, JSON.stringify form fields, right? Because just like I explained the data structure earlier, everything that I get there, I just want to dump it as a JSON. Okay. So tomorrow, if any of these changes, I am not really worried about it. Create ID. Let's get this again. And of course, this is a bad practice. Please do not do this. This is extremely terrible practice. Uh, JSON.stringify form fields. Okay. Now, if this works perfectly fine, just send that uh, error is false, right? But if something were to actually go wrong, and in this case, we know exactly where it's going to go wrong. It's because Prisma ran into an error. So we're like, Prisma error, p dot message. Okay. So now when I hit save, technically, and by all means of technicality, this should take the thing and it should dump it exactly the way it is, right? So I have, let's add in some more stuff. So let's add in phone number, which is a number, website, which is a URL. It's like, uh, I mean, it's fine. Like, I don't want to do that. Hit save. Canonical properties are one defined. We can find many. Okay. Schema. Applications, application form, but we have an application form. Bonex Prisma generate. I think this should solve the issue because it's not that it's undefined. I have it defined. Or do I not? Yeah, I mean, I did it from the thing, no? Website. And let's just do phone number for now. Actually, I need something which tells me if the dropdown is working as expected or not. So hit save. Huh, argument fields is missing. Okay, that's where I messed up. I wrote field instead of fields. So now since that is done, let's hit save again. And what do you know? It's working. Sorry, why don't I do that? NPX Prisma Studio. Now we are back in here, application form, skibidi do. And now we have this. Value must be a valid JSON. I don't know why it did that though. Right. So this is out of a habit for MySQL, which crept in. So if this was a MySQL database, it wouldn't directly take on form fields as is. We would have to stringify it, which is one of the fun parts of working with MySQL. So yeah, so even though for now, uh, like Postgre is just like, hey, this is not a valid JSON. It's fine. It's still wrote it. It's gonna be just fine. I'm not worried. So yeah, so essentially now what we are seeing here is our entire fields kind of in this, right? Which means that now that this exists, JSON stated, JSON string, as well as JSON string is not JSON, application JSON is. I mean, it's just a habit that crept in, okay? Uh, okay, so now what we want to do here is we'll be doing something very fun. We'll go back to our form and we'll add in get server-side props because here's what's going to happen. I open this up and I'm not reading from the database here, right? I'm still just showing a baseline, this thing. So export const get server side props equals sync const application form equals await Prisma. Okay. Prisma dot application form dot find first because obviously I do not care about anything else. If we find the application form, const fields equals json dot parse application form dot fields return props fields as fields. But if you don't find anything, return props empty, right? And so when this happens, I can add in props here, and in my fields, props always exists. So I can do props fields or this. So now when I come here, wait, did it not run? It should have run, right? Okay, server-side props. Okay, you actually found it. But this should work. Prop field or that. Am I passing props? I am passing props. But you also have this value, and I am actually awaiting it. So there is no reason for you to kind of just exit it. And your props is empty. Props is empty. And this means we just have to, I think, refresh. because server-side props requires a refresh. Please tell me that is the case. Now, what are you crying about? Prop class name did not match. I do not care. Manage wholesale. Okay, so it was just a matter of a refresh. That's fine by me. And this is why sometimes I hate Next.js because I literally didn't do anything except hit a refresh. So yeah, now we can save and we can read. So if I delete this and I hit save, works fine. And I come back here and I have this and be like, number, which is number, phone number. And then I have website, which would be URL, which would be what kind of developer are you, which is a drop down. I write JavaScript so good, they call it Java Scripture. I am learning JavaScript. I am a lousy developer, so I write in TypeScript. Bracket you, yuck, you will never be approved. Okay, that's looks about right. So we save it, we'll go back here, we come to manage wholesale form, and all of our stuff is here. It's a scab to do. Okay, so our entire form is done. Okay, now I come back to the features, and then I see this, right? So we created a dynamic form where the merchant can select what fields they want to be filled, which is stupendously done. You go to check, and that is checked, right? So that is done, right? We did one thing of the entire thing. Now what I want to do is I want to create a theme extension, right? So the reason why we're immediately creating a theme extension is purely because uh, I want to like show it to the front end, have some inputs already coming in. So then when I'm creating my approved and pending and rejected, I have some data to play with, right? So that's essentially what we're doing in this. We are uh, taking the form since you already have it. Now, ideally, what you can also do is you can store it in a meta field and then have your theme extension read the meta field off of it. But because in this like stream, I want to be really concerned with app proxy and theme extensions, given a lot of people ask me this question of, hey, how do you actually build your front end here, right? So that's what we're doing. We are like taking that approach completely. I think that's what I want to do, right? Do I want to do that or do I not want to do that? Yeah, I think that is the way to go. I would have some sort of basic stuff already flow in. Yeah, that's correct. Okay, I'm happy with that approach. So as usual, we're gonna be get add, get commit, working form, and hide that. Okay, so now all of our changes are stashed. Now we're going to be creating a theme extension. Like I said before, there's a very specific uh, structure we are following. So I'm going to be making a new directory called extensions. Everything to here is boilerplate. I know, right? CD extensions, and let's open that. Let's this. Yep, I think this is fine. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open a new instance of Safari, go to my own repo, go to my own good old repo, Shopify.js, because I honestly don't remember half the stuff in here. npm init y. Okay, in here, let's go to extensions, let's go to package. Let's copy this package and let's paste it in here. And then let's run bun install. which should do the entire thing. Pretty RC. Let's So all I'm doing is just like copy pasting a bunch of stuff in. You do not have to worry about it. Um, Technically, I should be like downloading this folder in, but yeah, I do not care. Like it's fine. Okay. Bun install. Install Prettier. Now what do I want to do? I want to generate. So bun run generate. Wait for 200 years. Now connect to an existing app. Dynamic forms as a stream. Ah, okay. We're creating a theme extension. Theme app extension. Name of your extension. What do we name this extension? Wholesale form. To preview this extension, please run bun dev. Gracias. Okay. Now, assets, don't need them. Blocks, we're gonna need blocks. We're gonna need blocks. Snippets, locales don't need them. Are we gonna need blocks? Are we gonna use snippets? Let's throw all of it in the block, shall we? Let's call it form.liquid. I also want to immediately have something where I can show this. So let's actually go into my proxy route, go into create a new folder called application, just in case I want to make some changes again, and fields.js, right? So let's create proxy, call it handler. It should be a get because I do not want to throw anything that's not a get. Const application form await Prisma dot application form dot find first, right? Const fields equals, if there is no application form, send in an empty array. If not, json.parse, json.parse dot fields, and return res.status to 100 dot send. Yeah, I'm happy sending it like this. Is this what I want to do? Const fields, if I don't get the application form, which could be null, assuming the merchant hasn't set up the app, json.parse, if I do get it, if not, just send an empty array. Yeah, I'm happy with this. Now it comes to actually doing this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to write in some documentation. Okay. So now here's the thing. If customer isn't logged in, show login form. If customer is logged in, but doesn't have, okay, so yeah, if you're just joining in, what we're doing is if you're approved, you have the wholesale tag on you, right? Or maybe the approved tag on you, but doesn't have, let's say, wholesale. Wholesale, do I want to show wholesale? Let's show wholesale. But now wholesale, so form. If customer is logged in and is properly tagged, redirect to slash, which is the homepage, right? So what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be writing liquid to take up the forms and dynamically render it. And since we already, yeah, since we always have the name and email, we're going to show that, which means if the user hasn't set up, we should actually be sending the name and email. Huh. Yeah, actually. But that's fine. I'm not gonna, do I wanna? Fuck it. Okay, that's fine. So, we're gonna be doing the good old assign CU tags, customer.tags, and make it down case. This is just so that if, you know, it was an existing implementation, and it's always a good thing to, take your tags and always downcase it when you're kind of running it, especially in JavaScript, to make a string on string comparison, right? So if cu tags contains false and request.design mode is false, script window.location.href, take them to the home page, right? And if. So this is done. Actually, let's just add this so I know what's done and what isn't. Okay, so this is done. Uh, if request the design mode is true, or you're just logged in, right? Yeah, this is where I would be running my if else condition. Else and if. So my script goes here where window.location.href slash account slash login. I think that would be the thing. Huh. And then return underscore URL would be, I am assuming that, so here's what's happening, right? If design mode is true, or technically design mode means if you are in the theme editor or if you're logged in. Yeah. Show the form. So here's what's happening, right? We first check if you have tags. If you have the right tag, you should go back to the home page, right? And then we check if you're logged in. Because if you were logged in and you had the right tags, you would have already been taken to the storefront. But since you're logged in and you do not have the right tags, we are showing you the form, right? And since you're not logged in at all, which is the else condition, I now want to take you to, I'm assuming this exists in slash pages slash join, because this sounds like a good uh, thing to be at. And then you kind of encode the URLs. Like I remember slash is a %2f, a space is a %20. Not using my fancy liquid comment tags. Yeah. So yeah. Uh, yeah, we have taken care of all of the stuff. I think this should be fine. Is this fine? So if you have this, yeah, this should work really well. I'm assuming this should work really well. I'm hoping. Please work. And I'm gonna cry. Okay, since all of this is done, we can just replace this with a whoops, simple slash. Okay, and now let's write the form. Uh, a lot of people would use, technically, what you could do here is you could be like shop.metafields dot like form.value and then kind of build it over off of that. We're not going to be doing that, sadly. We're going to be writing JavaScript instead. Yeah, we're using JavaScript instead. So this would be document.add event listener. This should be DOM content loaded. Okay, count response equals await, please await. I hate the thing. Apps. Okay, I need to define my this thing, but where is it? Application fields, no? So let's call it stream wholesale form slash applications slash fields. Const fields. This would be response.json, right? I'm just thinking. What I want to do next is I want to get the form. So this would be document.query selector application form fields.forEach field app proxy for the when I know, right? Like, and like, here's one thing, right? App proxies documentation is still so complicated. I remember the first time I read it and I was like, what's happening? I had to learn a little bit of Ruby to kind of get it right, but I was like, okay, cool. Like we got it. It do be working. Document dot create element select. Am I doing the right thing? No, what am I doing? There should be label. I'm going like one step ahead here. Okay, yeah. Const label be document dot create element label. Label dot text content should be field dot label. Let input if field dot type is drop down because we want this extra stuff for the drop down. Input. I hate the fact that there's no proper like formatting for this because that's what like irritates me a lot. This should be a select. My brain was running one step ahead on this. Now field dot options for each option. Const option element is document dot create element. This should be gonna be a fugly form. I am not bothering with the CSS on this. I'm making it very clear. I just want it to be functional. Okay. If you want to make prettier or whatever it is, do it in your own time. I am not doing this. We do not have enough time. Uh, option. Option element dot value is option, and option element dot text content is option. I put append option element. Yeah, so I think that should the extended crisis begins. Dude, don't, please. Like, I really want to do this on stream in like one shot. Otherwise, this shit's gonna irritate me for the rest of time. Wait, this is there. Else, this should be the one, right? Input equals document dot create element of type input. Input dot type is field dot type. Kick you out of the chat. Dave, come on, man. I'm not gonna kick you out of the chat. Come on, I love you. Please. Don't say stuff like that. Okay, hold on. So if it's of drop down, I want to create that thing, but if it's a regular input, I'm still inside the for each, which means input type is field type. Yep, that should be correct. And either ways, my input.name should always be field.id. Should it be field ID? Should it be label? No, it should be this because my label. How do you process the host param after the initial load? Why do you need the host param? If you're using average CDN, you do not need the host param at all. Tom, are you still in like 2020? Because the host param isn't even needed anymore. You don't even get the host param anymore. What are you on about? Okay, form.append, label, and input. I think they should do the job. I think they should do the job. I'm still inside. Okay, yeah. So once that has been loaded, and by the way, Tom, if you really want to persist it, what you can do is just store it in local storage. So whenever you have a host, you overwrite the thing. Don't overthink it all much. Trust me. Uh, we need a submit button. Submit button equals document dot create element button. Submit button dot type would be submit. Submit button dot ID is submit. I'm just adding in just so that I can kind of read it. Hey Tom, how you doing, mate? I think for sales channel app could be wrong. We'll see. I don't think you still need it though. Submit button type and ID. But Tom, are you using average CDN or are you using like version 2 or 3? Because that's a little weird, honestly. Submit button dot class list. Uh, Button classes. I'm gonna come back to this in a while. I don't want to be dealing with this right now. And submit button dot text content is submit. And then form dot append submit button. So this means I've gone through all of the fields, created those types. I've created a new submit button, and now I want write HTML out of using Liquid. Why use JS to build HTML? Uh, so Dave, here's what's happening, right? My input that's coming in, that is coming in a JSON. Now I can deal. Actually, fuck yeah, I could use Liquid. No, can I use Liquid? Okay, yeah. Dave, here's another thing. Assuming I submit, like I not submit, I open source this thing that I'm building, you know what's gonna happen? Someone's just gonna add in one or two params, and I'm gonna see it in the Shopify App Store like 3 days later. So I'm just gonna let it be very shitty. Let's just put it that way. That's fine. Yeah, like I'm just writing shitty code right now. Thanks for telling me that, but yeah. And now here's the thing, right? Document.query selectors input name should be name. For the season, you have to create. Tom, let me look at that. Can you drop me a message on Twitter? Because if that's the case, I'll take a look. It's been a good while since I've done that. So yeah. Okay. So the reason why I created these two inputs is I do not want to let the user or the end buyer write their own name and email. I want to grab it from Liquid instead. So name input dot value is customer dot name. Aha. If that's not the case, but this will never be hit. Even input dot value is customer dot email. I'm just gonna be safe and add in the ORs just so that we don't run into any issues. Right, right. So also what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna disable them. Hmm, I know I can just use like a straight up value checker, but this makes more sense. This makes the code more readable, yeah. Uh, let's actually add in some comments. I don't forget it. Uh, get the name and email from Liquid instead of letting the customer write it in for consistency. Grab the fields and build the form. Okay, this makes sense, I guess. I guess. Like I haven't even run any of this, so I don't even know. Uh, actually, wait. Why should I do this? You know what? Let's keep creation in one. Uh, submit button work like this. 10 on 10 comments, of course. Form dot add event listener on submit sync e dot prevent default. I don't know why we even have to use this, honestly. Like at this point, just prevent default. On submit button document dot get element by ID. That's the ID, right? Submit button. Did it get element or get elements? Oh, what forgot. Yeah, so at this point, it's already hit. So submit button dot text content equals loading. I'm not even going to disable it. I don't want to deal with that data. So const form data equals new form data form. Yeah. So const form data is new data. Const data equals, let's create a new this thing. Form data dot entries dot reduce. Let's create an object. Key value stores. Wait, what am I doing? Pa, 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 pa. Got this error luckily. Is this correct? Is this correct? Is it correct or is it not correct? This is how reduce works, right? Okay. Form data dot entries and reduce object. Get the key value dot object and destructure that. key value. If not, throw this. Okay, we'll debug this later in case it broke it. Okay, yeah. Now I want to overwrite some stuff. I want to take the name, uh, customer.name. I also want to take email, customer.email. And now here, I also want to get the customer ID. So one of the reasons why we're getting the customer ID off of here is otherwise what's going to happen is I'm going to have to query Shopify's admin API to get that customer ID by that email. But because Liquid gives me customer ID here itself, and because this form is only shown when people are logged in, I'm gonna get the customer ID directly here. And is it a good idea? I've had worse ideas, but I know for a fact that, yeah, like, okay, yes, 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 yes. So we're getting this here purely because we do not want to make an extra trip. And also the moment I store it in the database, even if they change their email, I still can refer to them by their customer IDs. So you can change your name and email. I do not really care, but your customer ID is a unique identifier that you cannot change. So that would make sense. So const response, await fetch, slash, no, slash apps. What was the thing that we wrote? Stream wholesale form slash application slash save. Let's application fields and application save. Does that make sense? That makes sense. Method is post. Proxy give you customer ID in the header. I'm just gonna pretend I didn't read that and that doesn't exist. Okay, see, in my defense, here is the thing, right? When you're streaming, you're allowed to make silly mistakes. Okay, because uh, what happens is when you're streaming, your brain tends to stop working sometimes. Yeah, so magic from Shopify, sure. Okay, so if the response is okay, application is saved. If it's not okay, failed save application, please go back to sleep. Thank you. Uh, Now since this is done, what I want to do is I want to get my submit button and change the text content back to submit. Actually, while this is happening, I know I'm gonna bloody forget it. Subpath is this. API proxy route. Save this. Otherwise, I know I'm gonna like spend 200 hours figuring this shit out, and then it's gonna eat my head. Oh the fuck, I don't have a schema. Do. Okay, let's see what this does. First, you grab the fields from form application fields. You destructure the JSON. Just curious, after working with Shopify so much, what's your opinions on the uh, quality of the docs? Doc, see, here is the thing, right? Everyone will tell you docs are bad or docs are good or yada yada yada. Here is the actual truth. Docs can never be good enough. Especially like someone for as big as Shopify. What you want to do is if you see something's wrong, write them an email, provide feedback because they're actually listening. That's the good part. That's all you can hope for. So As a senior developer in the space, it's your job to ensure everyone else has a better time. Like that, honestly, that's about it. Because I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this. Sadly, it is what it is. Like, uh, okay, let me start. Like, there's not much you can do. Like this is literally the best you can do in this space because yeah, your docs will never be good enough. The the easier you like, the quicker you understand it, the better your life's gonna be. Think of docs as here is a suggestion of we think it works this way and we think you understand when we explain it to you this way. Uh, if you don't, please tell us, right? Because I don't know about who's in the team for Shopify docs, but I can tell you if you write to like if you fill up the review form that, hey, I do not understand this. This is the URL or this is what I did, or this is how I figured out this is what you're doing. That's the better way to do this. Okay. So I'm not gonna say if they're great or if they're not great because I understand things at once. I've spent almost a decade doing Shopify right now, right? So yeah, the idea is if something works, it works. If it doesn't work, write feedback. Nothing else. There's no other in between in this. Okay. So yeah, nicely JS coder using customer ID and not customer. Thank you. Okay, why is they fixed? Yeah, like it's fixed. I think it's fixed within 48 hours. Please don't hold me to that number or anyone else, but from what I know, they fix it in 48 hours. Okay, so you grab the fields, destructure fields. Where is my form? Okay. How about this? We wrote the entire thing, but we never managed to write a form. Fun times. Imagine debugging this for like 200 hours. Application form. Let's add a class to it. Form class. Friends appreciate it. Gracias. And of course, we're gonna write a poem. And this is what I tend to do, right? Sometimes I write poems because obviously it's fuck, it's like 4:17 in the morning and we're barely done with this. Okay, what poem do we write? Uh, I, Dear junior developer, you might have a great TV or a monitor, but you still can't see the bigger picture. This JavaScript is so good, the history books will remember this as JavaScript. Oof! I should, I'm like William Shakespeare, but for code. I'm not so fucking good for this one. I'm gonna tweet. Sorry. I'm just gonna quickly tweet this. Also, let me grab the thing. Okay. Oh, fucking hell. Okay, so where were we? Yeah. So my forms in here, application form, so this should now work fine. I'm not writing any of the CSS. I'm sorry. If you expect me to write CSS right now, you need to give me like $200 for it. Uh, Stream wholesale form that is being routed. Huh. Input works, field type drop down, make that. I mean, if something breaks, we'll take a look at it, right? Query selectors, go in on submit, prevent default, get the element by its ID, change the text, create your entry into a JSON, date, name, email, customer ID, push it in there. If it's okay, it's Gucci. If it's not okay, we'll see. Okay, so if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, I'm just gonna cry. I think that should work out well. I, just please, give me, please. Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna deploy it and see what happens. Because at this point, even I don't know what's gonna happen. Okay, wait, we haven't written one route, right? Which is application save. Okay, for uh, let's just console log it because I want to check. Okay, yeah, sorry, I don't know what I was thinking there. Uh, for a second, I was just confused. Run, deploy. Wait, it wouldn't work because we don't have a schema. My dear schema. Why do we have to write a schema? Good old console log never fails, am I right? Uh, Actually, I'm not in the mood to write a schema. Let's just open up. To be honest with you, I can never, like, even after all these years, writing a schema like, I hate it. I know it needs to have a preset before it works, but let's just, I'm just gonna copy one. I think it has a custom liquid section. Yeah. Okay, schema. Name, uh, wholesale form. You're drawing another theme. Yeah, there's like so much stuff, dude. Tag section, class, section class. We don't need settings. We do, however, need presets. Name, wholesale form. Why are you crying? Quick fix. Skibidi do. Clear burn run deploy. Please work or I'm gonna cry. Yes, release this as a new version, please. Mm, Gracias. Unknown key presets. Does it not take presets? Missing required key. Oh, right. Dave, thanks for telling that. You know what we're gonna do? Haha, Shopify.dev, team extension, schema. Skibidi tata. And a brum brum boom. App blocks for theme, app embed block. What are we? Right. So target section. Yeah, it should work, dude. Just work at this point, or I'm gonna cry. Missing target key as well. Yeah, I'm also missing the target key. Okay, we have liftoff. No, not in a new one. Bro, there's so much background light I can barely even see what's happening. Okay, customize. We're gonna be adding this into a page, just for my sanity right now. I I do not want to do like an elaborate just thing. No, actually, you know what? Since we already have a form here, uh, why not just use this exact CSS? You know, and random. Do you know what bitrate the streaming and Texas Legends? What maybe a little sharper bitrate is pumped up a tad. Okay, this bitrate. I'm at 3100 right now. Now, I mean, like, don't worry about it. All I'm doing is I'm copy pasting this stuff. You know what? This is fine. Like, okay, I was gonna bother with like doing the whole thing, but bro, screw it. I do not have that kind of time. It's like 4:30 in the morning for me already. Yes, release this as a new version, please. Gracias. Hide this. If this works in one shot, I'm gonna be like over the moon. Technically, it's supposed to show up here. Now let's see what have we broken. I mean, I just raw dogged the entire thing, so I'm very sure I would have made some of the other mistakes. Do I still have the comma error? Okay, I do not have the comma here. So I add the wholesale form. Give me a new error to deal with. Unexpected token. Okay. Now where is this new unexpected token that you talk about? Actually, you know what? Let's just copy this entire script. I also want to do this here. And let's just create index.html in this. Do this. Format this document. Ah, there you go. And don't come at me with the, oh, if you were you. That is why it was. I mean, if it would have just said, like, hey, I can't do this because you have this error. Now, don't tell me that TypeScript would have fixed it. It wouldn't have. I think this is good to go. For some reason, this is not refreshing. Let's just open a new customizer this thing. Let's head into page. Okay. I mean, it didn't run at one go, like which I'm kind of sad about. See, name and email is disabled, which is what we kind of want. Okay, phone number is on. It's showing. Yep. It do be working. So now, since we have this, we also want to test out if it's redirecting you to the right thing or not. So, if I go in here, and it's asking me to log in. If I head into page, it should, that's correct. Very gusta muchos. I don't know what that means. I just heard a lot of my friends say it. Page is joined. The join page does not exist. It's a gabagoo. Okay. I haven't written the save function, so I cannot submit it, but I should still have an error that should confirm if I have. How's get document by? Okay, yeah, right, now I see it. I see it. I see where I went from. We could do all this 10 years ago, pretty much the same thing. I know, but it's. I think the reason why I'm building this is just to like kind of show that okay, hey, once you get the idea of how to use theme extensions along with app proxy, it's a pretty straightforward thing. Like Dave, we've been doing this for like what, a bajillion years at this point. So, the moment you're working with pretty new people in the, okay, it still hasn't updated. Why did it go down? We're gonna come to this in a second. We'll come to this in a second. Okay, let's kind of forget it for now. Okay, so if I were to now come back here to my features page, right? And now let's copy this. Use the mention create a form in the front end. That's what we are doing. Actually, it's not to create a form in the front end, it's to uh, show and submit form in the front end. You have already given the post form, that's cool. So you see, right? Like things happen in a certain structure. So you could use a text file, you could use whatever you feel like. This is how I do it. You can use it as a proxy, right? So this is done. Now let's quickly write the save form because it shouldn't be that difficult. I wish I could test this out, but you know what? Screw it. Const application data equals rec.body, right? I want to be able to do that again. Const name, application data dot name. This should be email, and this should be customer ID. Then I want to delete application data dot name. dot email and dot customer ID, right? And then I want to create a new super handy package demonstrator. Thanks for later. With all those problems. Yeah, I mean, like theme editor could be better, honestly. Super handy pattern we just demonstrated. What pattern are we looking at? By the way, sorry. I I do not know. Technically, I should be using all of this in like a simple this thing, but okay. Await client provider. This is proxy, so offline GraphQL client. Shop is reg user shop. So, if you want to know where that shop is coming from, what's essentially happening here is when you're verifying the signature, we take up the user shop and we pass it as in your rec, right? So we take the shop from the query and we pass it in the user shop. So essentially, when you come down here, you could use rec.usershop and that would have the my Shopify validated URL, right? So now we've created a new this thing. And join by proxy. That is the pattern. Oh, okay. Okay. Await client.query, data query. Now I need to open up add one API. Okay, so this is live writing a GraphQL query. Now you can use the Shopify CLI, press the G button and build up your queries. But we're still going to be doing the old-fashioned way because I do not want to change my workflow just for the CLI, and we are not using the CLI. So if you're thinking, hey, can I build a Shopify app without using the CLI? Yes, you can. Okay. So we head into the graphical interface, and this is what we're doing. We want the tags add, right? So essentially what we want to do here is tags in ID. Once you have tags in ID, you're gonna return node ID. User field message. Okay, so this is essentially my query, right? So I know this query would work. Now what we're going to be doing is I want to get my user's customer ID, which we already have, by the way. That's why we pulled the customer ID out from Liquid. So this saves me one trip trying to pull it from the email. So let's write it, right? Mutation. Let's call it tags add. This is a ID variable. Then I have, I think tags, right? Which should be a string. Yeah. Then what I want to do is I want to do tags add tags. Actually, let's do ID and then tags because obviously who writes that first? Is this looking fine? ID tags node ID. And after node, I have user errors field and message. And then once this is done, I want to pass my variables. Now, my ID would be a simple this thing. What do you call? Number, because I'm not going to get the full ID from that. So I'm going to get customer ID here, and I'm going to get tags as pending. So essentially what we're doing here is the moment I get a request, I'm going to add the pending tag into their user account, right? Um, this is so that tomorrow, if the customer is like, if the merchant is like, I want to see a list of people who have submitted, but I haven't responded to their request, it's pending. Also, another thing is tomorrow, if I want to send an email, right, to the people who are on pending tags, so you just submitted a form and I want you to use Klaviyo, what I would do is I would set up a workflow where it's like, if the tag is pending, shoot them an email, right? And then add in a tag or whatever it is that you want to do. So adding that pending tag is actually really great because tomorrow, even if I want to query, I can be like, hey, get me all of the customers with the pending tag, right? So it could be Prisma.applications. Prisma, please show yourself. Thank you. Now we're using applications, not the application form, because applications is where all of our content is. Oh yeah, at text level. Gracias. We're going to be upsorting as usual, where my email is my email. Update name. Let's update the email again because why not? Then fields. This would be application data because that's technically what the reg.body is, except that has now been stripped of the name, email, and customer ID. And my customer ID is my customer ID. Okay. Once it's done, send success is true, and you're Gucci. It's a simple gabagoo. Okay. So you have all of the other stuff. To quickly sum up what we have done, this should be a post instead. So essentially what we're doing is we get the reg body, right? And we push it into application data because I want to get the name, the email, and the customer ID, store it. You can combine this into one. I just don't want to be bothered with that right now. Actually, why am I not bothered with that right now, bro? Screw it. Okay. So we do that, and then we delete the application name, email, and customer ID off of this object, right? We make a new query to Shopify that, hey, can you please add the pending tag to this specific customer? And we get the customer ID from the application data. And then we store the entire thing in our database, right? And then we are like, hey, you know what? This is cool. We are good to go. You are good to go. And let's go. So we are back in the storefront. Let's go to the storefront. Let's go to page. We have a name and email already in there. So that's 131313 website. You know, whatever stuff comes in first. Of course, I wrote JavaScript so good they call it JavaScripture. Let's open up console on the side just so that we're sure everything's going fine. We hit submit. That's a 401. Access denied for tags at field. I wonder why that could be. Okay. Now, first things first, the good thing is we are hitting the right thing. We responded with a 401 is because of this. Sadly, all of our 401s are because of that. Now, this thing failed because we do not have access to writing the tags at field. And this is because you have to go into your dashboard. You have to, I think it's an API access or is it somewhere else. Protected customer data access. That's what I'm missing. That is why you get customer for the header though, as people are forging that and causing havoc by providing any old customer ID. Yeah, I mean, see, another thing is I will be pushing the source of this. And I know like most of you would be like, hey, you know, thank you for this. We learned a lot. Or we used a bunch of it, which I'm fine with. I'm not fine with you kind of forging the entire thing, adding in two things and throwing in, be like, hey, I have a new app, which a lot of folks do. So yeah, I can't be bothered with it, to be honest with you. So yeah, once we have this, and I hit it again without any changes to my code, I hit submit. Access denied for tags at field. I think I need to wait for like a second or two. Yeah, it's like 20 goddamn clicks, dude. This is irritating. Okay, since we know that this is the exact error, I just want to get the message. Am I missing something else? Because I've done Oh, correct. This is also happening because in my ENV, I only have write content. I also want write customers, professional Shopify app developer, by the way. So now we'll have, wait, why did this? Oh, yeah, correct. Because of course you need to restart your server. Otherwise the envs doesn't go through and then you're like, hey, why is this not working? And then you realize that this is why it's not working. And then you have this, like, hey, customer data, update. Okay, so since we have that, and now when I hit submit, fail save application, skibidi papa, and a boom. Oh, this is an error on my end. Okay, I wrote the thing, but I forgot to write the create one. Okay, that's my bad. We can deal with that. Um, name, email, fields, customer ID. Okay, yeah, sure. Right, whatever. Submit this. Application saved. And so now what we can do is we can actually pull all of this data. So Next Prisma Studio, this thing opens up. We go to applications. We have this. We have the thing. We have the gabagoo. Okay. And now the good thing is all of my fields are in like uh just a JSON. So I can like always read them. So I don't have to change my structure. I know my name and email already exist. The customer ID comes in, which is good. Application status is pending, just as expected. And now when I come back to my customers, I'm going to host deep, which is me. I have the pending tag, which is what we expected. So Gabagoo is working just fine, thankfully. Okay, so now is just a matter of uh, reading the pending forms, right? And just updating it. Okay. So what we're gonna doing here is let's kill all the this thing. Let's come back to features. And then now what we're doing is approve and reject. God, this is like I thought this would take like maybe 2 hours. It's like 2:47 right now. And technically it's 4:47 right now. It's 2:47 hours. Okay. Git add. Git what am I doing? Git commit. Uh create extension. Add extension notes. We don't have a git push just yet. Okay. Okay, now we want to show the approved and rejected forms, which is gonna be like a lot of work for some reason. I mean, it's the more irritating kind of work, to be honest with y'all. Uh, but yeah, let's quickly build this. So in here, what was my route? Applications, index of JSX. Okay, now create new page, applications home. I need to update these snippets too. Okay, let's go back to features. Let's go to applications, and we have this. Okay, that's good. Const router equals use router. Okay. Then answer 16 questions for data privacy, but it worked. Oh yeah. So when you're in dev mode, right, and you're looking for API access, you only need to fill up the first two. You do not need to fill the second one, sorry. You don't need to fill one, one, and one, two. You never have to go to the second one for in dev mode. The moment you push this, you have to fill this up. But before that, you can just kind of get by with it. Okay. Uh, where were we? Yeah. So in here, I want to title, wholesale applications, back action, not content on action, router.push, back home. I'm gonna keep it short, this one, honestly. Gap is 200. Uh, text, variant, heading medium, I guess. Pending applications. I can make this interesting, honestly, by using get server side props. Like my brain's already going into what I want to build on this. This is a list of pending applications in your wholesale store. Okay. Then inline stack, align end, button on click, router.push, applications, let's call it pending, manage pending applications. Let's show you so people can see what we are building. Variant is primaries. Okay, so now here's the thing, right? I would just make for approve and denied, but that is literally the exact same thing. So I'm just gonna omit like all of it. Okay. I'm not even gonna bother building it right now because it's almost 5 o'clock in the morning for me and I need some sleep. Applications pending. Actually, let's just copy this because it's a simple page. Hmm. Now here, what do I wanna do here? Let's make a new route called fetch pending. Wait, why is it .jsx? .js create API handler. And this is a get. This would all this would do is const applications equals await Prisma dot applications dot find many where application status is pending. Yeah, this looks about right. And again, if you want to do for approved and rejected, just change this for approved or change this for rejected. You can convert this into a one this thing. But essentially, all we're doing is we're going through the entire thing and be like, hey, how many do we have for pending? Pull them in and just show them in here, right? So that's pretty much it. It's honestly not that complicated. So let's also not complicate it either. Uh, and here we're gonna have to create a new model. I think an index table would work here very well. So how about creating an index table that shows name, email, status, and yeah, and so when you click on it, it opens up a modal. that allows you to view an admin. Do we want to view it in admin? Just approve. I think, yeah, let's just do approve and reject it for now, right? Uh, I think that should, the resource name is resource name, item count, let's call it pending. Selected items count. I think that's one, yeah. Uh, Selected resources dot length, which means on selection change, handle selection change. Select, you know what, actually fuck it, dude. Let's not make it selectable at all, because that's gonna complicate it even further. Yeah, I know that does not exist. You can stop crying about it. Uh, I think you should do it. Also, index table isn't empty. This would also have row markup in here, which means we need to have a modal markup in here. I think that should do it. That should now contain the entire thing. I believe so. Okay. First, let's deal with the resource name, which is singular. Plural. Plural is the one, right? Application. Applications. What do we want to do? We want to make a fetch, correct? So const pending set pending use state. Now do I, you know what? Actually, instead of using that route, oh, screw it. Let's take a better approach. Export const gets server side props async const pending applications equals await Prisma dot applications dot find many. What? Oh, that's what the clash was. Okay, where uh, application status is pending. Return props pending applications. And now, as usual, kill this, do this, restart this. Do 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 do. Please stop crying about it. Do 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 do. Okay, row markup is not defined, which is what we are going for. Cool, 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 cool. Now let's create the row markup. I believe. Yeah, that seems like feasible. Const row markup equals pending dot pending. It's an array of objects. We should have that. Okay. Values index, which means I want a singular response. Index table dot row, right? Your ID should be values dot ID. Your key is values dot ID, which should again be thing. Your selected, nah, we're not doing selected. Your position would be the index. I think that gives it all of the information that we want to give it. Index table dot cell values dot name values dot email, and in here I want to show a button for primary. Uh, Open modal. So this should technically just be a state which should do view. I want to do state. Okay, we'll come to this in a second. Let's make the row markup. Const row markup. How do you want to do the row markup? Not row markup, modal markup. Uh, okay, so this should be modal. Modal is, yeah, open. Let's just call it active for now. On close, handle modal close. Title. You know what I need to do? What I need to do? I need to make the modal because, okay, so essentially what's happening is I need to create a new state. Const current application set current application use state null. Okay, and so this becomes current application and then show me the modal, right? Okay, so how do I now set the current application I want to get from the index? I think this is what I need to do. Set current application to the values and then set active to true. Handle close, handle callback, set active to false, set current application to the null back again. Okay, so essentially what we're doing here, so essentially what we're doing here is whenever Whenever I hit the view, it sets the current application to that entry's data, which means which means modal dot section, and if I throw in some text here, which is nothing but current application, and if I hit view, JSON dot stringify it, of course, I'm a professional. I have all of my data in here. So technically now, if I were to make it current application dot name, what did I mess up? Yep, okay, there you go. Uh, right, right. Okay. So now we have this data coming in. Does this work? Yep, that works well. Which means in the modal section, what I can do is name would be current application dot name. Email would be email. And then what I want to do here is object dot entries, current application dot fields dot map, key value pair. If I get this, which means I can get my text. Key and value. Okay, uh, that works. Uh, yeah, that that worked out really well. Okay, so I'm just gonna code one to accept it because that's where the fun's gonna happen. Primary action, content, approve. I have to create a loading. I'm not creating a loading state. Okay, on action, const response, await, fetch, const fetch equals use fetch, const await fetch. This also needs to be in async slash API slash apps slash application slash actions approve. I think approve. Yeah, that's how I would have created. So in application API apps application, instead of fetch, I want to create actions approve.js. Okay, we'll come to that. This is a post header. I'm doing something wrong. Am I not doing something wrong? Because usually it would show me the thing. Okay, I'm in the right one, but I don't know why there is no body JSON.stringify. I don't want to add in any of the current application stuff, so let's current application. Technically, what should happen now is I close the modal and I make a new fetch to get all of the pending states. But I am not gonna go into that kind of work. So yeah, just hitting approve should get the job done. I am not gonna be doing that much work. Okay. Now, this needs to be a post. So essentially, I get a query that has all of the content in it, and I want to client provider dot offline dot GraphQL client shop is rec dot shop. I think that's rec dot shop, or is it rec dot user shop? Verify request rec dot user underscore session dot shop. If you're thinking where this is coming from, what we're doing is in verify request to pass the entire session, which means you can use rec dot user underscore session dot shop, which what we're doing here to get the current shop. Await client dot query data query. I'm gonna use the tags add again. I think this should be the wait, why am I running this on query? You can see my sleep is trying to creep in. String tags add ID is ID tags is tags node ID user errors field message variables ID GID Shopify customer slash rec.body.customer ID, because we are destructuring the entire thing and passing it tags wholesale. Now what we are also going to be doing is we're going to be copying the entire query and we're going to be copying things. Now tags add becomes tags remove. So this also should take ID and tags, node ID, user error fields message, and instead of wholesale, we're gonna be doing pending. So this means like what we've essentially done is we take that users, like we add wholesale to it, we remove the pending because now it's not pending anymore, and then we Prisma dot applications dot update where email is rec.body.email. Data is application status approved. Success is true. This should work out of the box. Once you have this, await.json if response dot error alert error return else alert done. Harshdeep can now go to sleep. Please just show me done so I can go to sleep. Actually, you know what? Let's make a loading state, dude. Try, catch, finally set loading. True. Primary action. Loading is loading. Okay. We hit view. We hit approve. It loads. It says done. HostDB can now go to sleep. I go to customers. I go on HostDB. And you have the wholesale tag and not the pending tag. Okay, that was that was it. We uh we built this. Done. It's that easy. Like building Shopify apps isn't all that difficult. All right, so quick thing, all we learned in this entire stream was how theme like just how convenient things are once you know how they work. Honestly, like there's nothing else to it because we built all of this in stream like 2.5 hours. So and because I had to explain the entire thing, I was just like, hey, I need to do this, I need to do that, and yada yada yada. And if it was just on me, I would have honestly finished it off a good while ago. So yeah, that's there. Anyways, thanks so much for joining in. You can buy my course. Uh, it's so difficult to kind of even like talk about it. You can buy my course if you want to see more of this. We're doing monthly live streams now. Actually, I should have added the links also in the description. You can kind of click on that. That's the first URL. And yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. Catch me on Twitter, all of that areas, and I'll see you soon. Toodles.